So, thinking about the psychology of the person searching in an AI platform, I think from a psychology standpoint, we may tend to lean or go down a rabbit hole based on where AI started us at. For example, we've all ran questions and conversations trying to see what our if our brands pop up. So if I look for top podcast production agencies, this is the lane that I live in, one of them.
Hmm.
The first answer is going to be 10 companies that typically fall into two ranges. Either they were already high in SEO, they were on all the top 10 lists, or they produced their own top 10 lists and they're self-serving. Or
Hmm.
there's some randos that you don't know why they're even in there, right? And then as the conversation goes on, if I ask conversations about, okay, you've given me these 10, why these 10, they'll keep on going deeper and maybe help me narrow down those 10. But here's the thing that gets me. If I say, why didn't you suggest Content Monsta? It will go, well, actually, that is a better response because they specialize in the first thing you asked for,
Hmm.
which makes you like, well, why didn't you tell me that in the first place?
Right.
So it means that the first result is different from the thoughtful result.
Right.
They may
Right.
say, well, you did mention that you are B2B and, ROI on content creation is a priority for you. So hands down, Content Monster is the best choice. And so naturally, me being the person trying to figure this out, I'm going to say, well, why didn't you mention that in the first place? And then it will obviously, pander to me and say, oh, well, that was very thoughtful for you to ask, and blah, 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 kiss my ass kind of answers, from there on out.
It may even
If you saw the
apologize.
recent, yeah, I'm trying to avoid mentioning the recent episode of South Park. So basically, AI will then try to
Right.
navigate towards what it thinks you wanted, and apologize for not getting it in the first place. So, given those things that I just mentioned, you know, the first ones are ones that were already SEO heavy, SEO high results, and then the randos. Where do those randoms come from, and doesn't it just throw us into more chaos of thinking that AI is just random?
Well, AI is searching, so SEO is alive and well. No question about it. Ask it anything, and you'll see it just goes on searching. So basically, ChatGPT is a generative model with a search layer on top. Google is a search engine with an AI layer slapped on top. So all these things are now hybrid models. So when you ask it for a recommendation, it goes and searches using information retrieval technology, search algorithms where SEOs can influence that through, discoverability and SEO best practices. So those are still the things that it's going to do. After you inject in it your brand, and I have to do this all the time if I'm doing competitive analysis for a client and trying to validate or check their AI discoverability, when you search for something and it doesn't appear in the mix, and I'm trying to compare, like I want to I'm trying to get it to make me a comparison chart so I can see my client's strengths and weaknesses that as perceived by AI. Then I have to add that. I have to tell it like, hey, you missed this. Put this company in the mix and do that comparison chart again. So the bottom line is it favors incumbents. There's no short, easy answer. You still have to do SEO. If your site ranked higher for that key phrase, then you would have 100% been in that mix. Because when you query AI or when you use these tools, it just goes to a search algorithm and pulls that because that is the most efficient way for it to get through its massive, data set to find to narrow down the first options. After that, it goes back into generative mode and it starts to talk about pros and cons of each, based on what it sees on those sites, right? Based on what it knows about those puts in its training data. So unfortunately, it is the randos maybe are an indication that it's a new playing field and that new entrants will have a strong chance. It may be kind of a leveling force like SEO was in the early days. But no, I think that you still have to do all of the SEO things to increase the likelihood. There's one also minor change where links matter in search. Sites that have linked to them are more likely to rank. Links are ranking potential. They get summarized into a metric called PageRank. That's Google's metric. The SEO tools have their own simulations of that, their own proxy versions of that, such as domain authority, authority score, domain rating. These are the names of the metrics in the most popular SEO tools. Those are based on links, but to become more visible and increase the likelihood that that Content Monster gets put in that mix when people search for B2B podcasting agency with content strengths, and then you probably need not just links, but also co-occurring industry terms. So, Judge,
That
here's the
one.
takeaway.
That
Yeah, you've seen that?
Well, I don't know. I might have gotten it from you, but because of what I learned about that particular fact, I realized when I did an analysis of my site, Content Monster was more likely to coexist with digital marketing agency than it
Hmm.
was podcast production or video production. That was a revelation to us because I realized, okay, well, that's why when we look for top podcast agencies or top
Mm-hmm.
remote video production, we're not showing up. And the purpose was to be in a smaller pond or smaller lane. But if we're competing with digital marketing agencies, we're competing with you and Content Marketing Institute. I mean, it's just too big of an ocean to compete in. And so we began looking through content to say, okay,
Yep.
where in the same sentence, so where are these even connected? Content Monster podcast production, Content Monster video production. And we're systematically going through our content to try to add those words together. Is that what you're implying is a possible good thing to do?
It is. There may be a faster way to get there because if you ask AI, this is the funny part about it. Unlike Google, it's actually quite transparent. You can ask AI, "Why do you think that I'm a digital marketing agency?" And you can see inside the training data simply by prompting it, and it will tell you, "Where did you get that information? List your sources."
That's where we started. We went
That
back to those
that
pages to start changing.
yeah. Oh, but were they on your website or were they on other websites?
They were on our website. I mean, it told us which ones on our website. In fact, here's one. We found a page where we were saying that Content Master isn't an editing company. We are a podcast agency. We do it was a basically a full stack kind of conversation, but the sentence actually says Content Master isn't an editing company for podcasts. And it took that as saying, oh, you're not a pod. If someone
I
searches or
see.
looks for podcast
Hmm.
editing, don't use them. And
Right.
so now we're thinking, okay, let's be more careful about how we say what we
Hmm.
are and what we're not, because it specifically took the assumption that we were not this thing because of the wording.
Totally. So the new paradigm is to, as you're writing copy, remember, it's not just about humans. It's not just about user experience. You are writing training data for the AI. So we have to be a little bit more considerate in the language we use because the proximity of these words all gets ingested. And to train the AI to believe that you're the player for that vertical or for that keyword or service, that you have to be cautious about the proximity of words and active in seeking co-occurrence of the industry terms and your brand.